this. You're just making all this up. Everything's going to be fine. Have you ran into those people? There is no food crisis. Prices may be up, but there's not a food crisis. There's not going to be a food crisis. Have you heard people saying that, you all? I, I know you have. There are people who got their head in the sand. Their head is stuck in the sand. They don't want to pull it out. They want to be that ostrich, you all. Good morning. There is a food crisis. When you have farmers in Texas, their fields, they're drying up. They can't afford to water or give water to their animals and stuff. Their bills from electricity and all that. 250,000. How can you pay something like that? No, you can't a month, you all. There is a food crisis, and it is going to get worse. The crops are drying up. The farmers have nothing but their fields got to sit there because they can't afford to pay the bills that come with it. They're having to sell their cattle off too, you all. The prices in the stores are going up. There is a food crisis. So to the people who think there's no food crisis, it's just a little inflation right now. Everything's going to get better. It's not going to get better anytime soon. The Dust Bowl lasted for over a decade. A decade. Look at this. The energy crisis, look at this. Energy crisis is turning into a food crisis in Europe. Catastrophic floods in Pakistan exasperating the food crisis in Afghanistan. Burkina Faso, about 2 million people displaced amid the worst food crisis in a decade. Is there more news about a food crisis? Certainly there's no more news about a food crisis because a food crisis doesn't exist and it's not going to exist. It's just you all doing your fear mongering. No, no, no. When the food crisis really hits the fan, and when you want to go out and you want to get food and there is nothing on that shelf or you can't even afford it, there's something like a quart of wheat for a day's wages, two quarts of barley for a day's wages. Could you imagine having to work all day long in order to buy one loaf of bread? One loaf of bread, because a quart of wheat, I think it takes around maybe 5 cups of flour to make a nice loaf of bread. 5 cups of flour, and that's about all you're going to get in one of those flour bags, you all. That's about all you're going to get in it, you all. Let's look at this. So, Europe. How's the next food crisis will be different from this year? Sri Lanka, looming food crisis with their stunted crop. Researchers find a food crisis solution. Soaring fertilizer prices in Africa. UN says the global food crisis is about affordability. The great European energy crisis. They see 150 million more women than men hungry. The climate crisis is a hunger crisis, you all. You know what it reminds me of? Their food chain reaction game that they played. Years ago, they told you exactly what was coming down the pipeline. The people who played the game, the rulers who played the game, they told you what was going to happen. And they also told you all these other things that were going to happen during this food chain reaction game, because they threw in some war, they threw in some riots, they threw in all kinds of stuff. And they wanted to see how the countries would react to it. They all planned, and I think it was back in the 2000, late 2000, maybe around, it was during Obama's reign. I think that's when the food chain reaction game crisis happened, and I think it happened. Did it happen around the White House? Did it happen in the White House when that happened, you all? I don't remember. But nonetheless, you all, they played it. And they said by the end of it, at one point, the inflation would rise to around 400 some odd percent, almost got to 500% rise. That's how bad it got in this food chain reaction game. And I'm pretty sure I got a video on my YouTube channel about the food chain reaction game, you are. Pretty sure I do. Yeah, so for the people who want to be in denial that there is no food crisis, there's no shortages, there's no nothing, a domino effect causes all the other areas to be affected, okay? It does. That's how it happens, you all. That's right, you all. And it's going to get worse. So, if you have extra $5 or something, you can, well, now, At this rate, you'd be lucky if you can't get 2 cans of canned goods for $1. You cannot. You can get 1.5 cans of canned goods for $1. 1.5. If you have $5 extra instead of going to that restaurant and getting that fast food, well, you can't even get anything for $5 anymore. I would take the money that you wanted to go and you want to eat out every day, go, because it's easier. Go to the grocery store and buy you some canned goods. That way, when you want to eat, you'll have something to eat. Because the fast food, you ain't even going to be able to afford it if they can get it. So yeah, the people who like to go out and eat all the time because it's convenient, well, it's not going to be too convenient when you want to go out and you can't afford it because it's not there and you ain't got no food in your house. That's not convenience, because maybe something happens or something and you can't go out, but you're hungry. You can even get some ramen. You can get a whole case of ramen for like what? I don't know how much it is now, maybe 3 something for a whole case. But when things got bad, they were limiting 4 packs of ramen per customer. 4 packs. 4 packs of ramen. So yeah, there is a food crisis, okay, and it's going to get worse. You're going to see it. You're already seeing empty shelves, and the supply chain will literally, it would crawl. It would come to like a crawl. Trickling in if you can get it. If you're fortunate enough to have the money, fortunate enough to be able to find it, it'll be there. But if you're not, what are you going to do, you all? What are you going to do? There are those who you may say, you might want to store up a little extra food, and you tell them and you try to encourage them. If they don't listen, it's not your fault. Let it be, because it's going to stress you out. If you have been trying to tell people, you should have a little extra on hand because, you never know when you're going to need it. If they keep blowing you off, fine, fine. Don't waste any more of your energy. Focus on you. It's not your problem. You have enough stress in your life. And you need to focus on your family and what you can do, you all. You need to focus on that. You can tell people all the time, and they may think, well, that's okay because I'm going to come to your house. If you're one of those people who think you're going to, oh, it's okay, I'm going to go to their house, I know they're whatever, don't be so confident in that. Don't, because you may be turned away. You may, and you may not even be able to get there. You may, because when push comes to shove, when people get into that survival mode, extreme survival mode, you're not going to have really nice people. Some people are not going to be nice. They may have been nice at first, but if it's you or them, it's going to be them, and you're not going to get anything you want. That's how some people are going to turn really. You're going to see the dark side. You're going to see the survival mode kick in, okay? The survival mode is going to kick in, and they're going to do whatever they can to feed themselves and their family. And that would get ugly, you all. It would. So I don't want to live in a world like that. I don't. I would encourage you, if you got $5, if you was going to go to the restaurant and get you a burger, there's nothing wrong with that. There really isn't. Oh, my legs. You might want to get a extra canned goods or something that you like to eat. Don't get something that you don't want to like to eat, because there was times, I remember it was like last year, I think, I wanted canned carrots. I couldn't find canned carrots anywhere, anywhere. And I like to use them at times. I do. And then finally, this year, I saw some canned carrots. I said, I'm going to get some extra canned carrots because, they're good. They're good to eat, heat up and stuff like that if you like it. But even that, even like canned peas, you can get them for maybe 58 cents. Green beans, maybe 70. It all depends on what type of canned good you want to get, you all. But really, when you're hungry, something's going to look really good, especially if you can't get it. Thank you, Francisco. If you can't get it on the shelf in the stores and you can't get out, you're going to be very thankful that you have something in your home. And let me tell you, if you have small children, you don't want your children to go hungry. You don't. You do not want your children to go hungry, because that's not nice. You're supposed to take care of your children. If you have a habit of not watching what you spend, you all, please watch what you spend. And please store up some food for your family. Whatever you can afford. Something is better than nothing. It is. Something's better than nothing. And there are people who are literally stretched to the limit. They're on limited budgets, and they don't even have enough money to pay their utilities because that is is going through the roof too. Some people's bills have doubled. So what do? There's got to be cut somewhere. Um, we don't know. You never know what disaster might befall the land. You don't. But as in the food chain reaction game, you know what they had, all of these things that played out. And then coincidentally, by the year 2025, everything was just settling down and stuff like that, you all. Things were getting better, a little bit better for the people who did make it through. Um, yeah, all you have to do is just do a little Google search or something like that. You'll see the crops, they're not what they used to be. Some crops dried up. People had to sell their cattle because they couldn't afford to give them water or feed. Some people couldn't afford the fertilizer and stuff. It's worldwide. It's not just happening in your state or in your town. This is worldwide for one reason or another, you all. One reason or another. And yeah, so yeah, it would be nice to have something. I myself, when I was pregnant, when I first got married with my husband, we didn't have no money. Our checking account would get down to maybe a dollar and something until he got paid next in the military. It wasn't easy. I remember having to open up a can of green beans and eating a can of green beans, and we lived off of ramen. Okay, ramen and some canned goods because we couldn't afford nothing else. But you know what? I'm still here. We made it. We made it, you all. And you know, you have things like that too. You've had to eat off of that. You know, I remember one time we was at Fort Meade, Maryland. There was an abundance of food that came to the commissary. Abundance of food, so much food that they had semi-load sales of cases and cases of like cereals, breakfast bars, things like that. You could buy, that's when the boxes were really big like that. You could buy a big old case, probably around 12 or 10 in a box for $7. When Fort Meade in Maryland, the commissary would have their case lot sales. Could you imagine that? I would buy it. I would. I bought it. I bought stuff like that. And I put it in the housing. And when my parents would come and visit, I'd send them home with it. I would. I'd send them home with that. I remember I would stock up on tuna. I had so much tuna one time. I did. You know the 2000, why 2000 crisis that never really did pan out. They didn't know. So I thought, oh my gosh. I had stored up a bunch of tuna because it had a long shelf life, you all. And my mom and dad came to visit, and I sent them money to, come to Maryland to visit us. And I filled up their whole trunk with food, and their back seats. They put as much as they could, and they took it home. It was a lot of tuna. To this day, my mother cannot stand tuna. That's all they had to eat because they didn't have the money. The food that I gave them, she got so tired of tuna fish. And you know what it's like, you all. If you have only like one thing to eat, like a meat product because you don't have no money, you're going to get, or any other product, you're going to get so tired, you're going to have an aversion to it. An aversion to it. But you do what you have to survive. You really do. And it's okay. It's okay to go into a survival mindset. It doesn't mean that you're crazy or nothing. It means that you are aware that the situation occurring in the world is looking kind of sketchy in all different areas. It is. And that you might need to do something about it, regardless of those people who are out there in la la land who think everything's going to get better, everything is fine. You're just a paranoid person. No, you're not, you all. You're not. You're aware. You're using some common sense. You want to make sure you're preparing for your family. I've heard some people say, you might need at least they're saying anywhere from 1 to 3 years worth of food. If you're a Mormon, I think they store up, is it 2 or 3 years worth of food? That's a lot of food, you all. That is, and I don't know how they could do that, but Like the Seventh-day Adventists, they have their own stores too. When I was in Hawaii, there was a friend, she would go there and they had the food that you would buy for them because, you know, they don't eat meat. But still, there's lots of people who are storing up some extra food because they see the writing on the wall. It's like when that hand started writing on the wall, many, many tekatini, whatever it was, and the king um, didn't know what that was, so he called in somebody to tell what it was. It says, "You've been weighed in the balance and found wanting. Your kingdom is divided, it can't stand. Your houses are built upon the stand. You've been weighed in the balance and found wanting." That night his kingdom fell. That was the end of him, you all. The handwriting, could you imagine an invisible handwriting on the wall? And he's thinking, okay, what is that handwriting on that wall for? Yeah, you all. No, if you see warning signs, you might want to pay attention if you can. You can, I promise you, you can. Some way you can even, you might have to exchange something that you got for somebody who don't got nothing, you all. Yeah. And for the people who say, well, I'm just going to stock up on ammo and guns and stuff, and I'll go take what I want from others. That's not right. If you're one of those type of people who want to do that, that's wrong. You know, if you got the money to go out and buy all that kind of stuff and not food, there's something wrong with that picture. That's not a good mindset. Okay. Now, granted, you'll have people who do that, and they'll find you know, like a thing where they can use those skills, you know, and they'll blend right in because you might need somebody to protect you too. If things got really bad, and I don't like to go there. I don't like to go there. Yeah, but food, you want food, you want supplies, you want some first aid stuff for your family, you do, and your children. And right now, people don't have the baby food for their babies. They don't. So what would you do if your baby's hungry, you had no baby food, you had no milk, and you couldn't breastfeed and stuff? What do you do? Really, what do you do? Um, and you just don't want to find yourself in a crisis when you've been given warning. You don't. It makes an already stressful situation even more stressful when those hunger pains hit you. When you wait to the last minute to go out, because now you're not just stressing, you're panicking because something major happened, and you're going out and everybody's going out. You know those videos about there's an ice storm coming and everybody goes to the store. They take the bread, they take the milk, they take the eggs, and the shelves are empty. All the shelf stable food is empty, and you're looking around in the toilet paper stuff. I don't know why they did that. Maybe that was something you will not even have. Maybe that's like an omen, like a little thing saying you will not even have toilet paper to wipe your rear end when the stuff hits the fan. Maybe that was a warning to us. They just did that to say, look, this is what it's going to come down to. You will not even have something like that to wipe your rear end. And that's not nice to do to people, you are. It isn't. And I think that's a very clear message. It just popped in my head. But yeah, I think they're sending a signal. The prices are going up, and there's different types of food. Sometimes you can't even get the type that you wanted, the brand you wanted, or anything like that. Notice there's lots of junk food. There's lots of junk food, but is that going to give you nourishment for your body? It's nice comfort food. I admit I like to have a chip every now and then. And especially since everybody's getting hunger all the time, getting hungry, even though you've already ate something, that's a whole new story right there, you are, but just a little extra food for your family. And you know how the Pope said, they want all the money after decades and decades and decades, bring it back to the Vatican. You got to the end of September. Now that's in order, he said, more or less. That's in order, bring it back, I want my money. We want our money, bring it all back, because something's going to happen. Something's going to happen. Some say that there's going to be like a enormous market crash too. That's a theory. Aliens, war, earthquake, all of this kind of stuff. We did a video on that, you all kinds of things, and it can literally make a stressful situation even more stressful, and you don't want to fall apart. You don't. You want to be strong. You want to have your ducks in a row if you can. Don't fall apart. You got to be strong. You really do, for yourself and your family. You want to have it all together When other people might be falling apart, they're going to fall apart. They are. You want to have yourself together. You do. Um, and you don't want to have to worry. It's like the 5 virgins. 5 were wise, 5 were foolish. They had the wise one had the oil. The foolish didn't. No, they didn't have no extra oil. And when it came time for the bridegroom, those foolish virgins, they wanted to go to the one who had the oil in their lamps. Can you give us some of your oil? And you know what they were told? You go to those who sell and buy yourself, because there won't be enough for us if we give it to you. So they went away. When they did, the bridegroom came. Um, you won't be like that. Knowing that you should have done something, but you kept putting it off and putting it off and putting it off, and you thought you was going to go to somebody else and they was going to give you what they had for themselves, and you find out, no, they're not. You go buy your own if you can find it. Yeah. So there is a food crisis. So don't tell me, and don't be telling anyone else, if you're one of the people, there's nothing going on. I don't have a problem. Well, maybe you're well off. And maybe you don't have, that's all you, yeah, maybe you're well off or something, and nothing against those who are well off. But you know what? When that last stock market happened, we went to visit this place in French Lick, Indiana, when the stock market of years and years ago crashed. The man who, at the French Lick, he saw these wealthy investors jumping out of the window and ending their life because they lost everything. They lost everything. They lost it. They couldn't handle it. It's like wealth is worthless in the day of wrath. And when it gets down to it, your money's not going to do you nothing. No good. Somebody'd rather have food than your money, because if your money can't go out there and purchase nothing, what good is your money? Something tangible in your hand and in your possession would be more valuable than paper money. Um, if I needed food and all you had was cash, um, and you didn't have no food, but I had some cash, and I knew your cash was worthless, and it would take a lot of cash, or you had gold, and I think, well, there's nobody I know who would even trade that for. I would rather have the food. If I was to barter, I'm going to barter for something that I need, not something that I don't need. I'm not. And people must say, well, you can find these people and you can trade this silver and you can trade this gold for the things you need. Well, that's fine and dandy. Where are you going to find somebody like that? Where are you going to find somebody like that in your local area? If you can't get out and go nowhere, where are you going to find people like that? Yeah, they're going to be few and far between, because I'm sure they ain't going to have on hand, maybe all that you want, because they may have not had that. It's wild. The food chain reaction game and the inflation going up to around 400, 500% in prices. And I think right now, what's it, 18%, some 20% inflation, and the electric bills are doubling. That's 50% right there in electricity. And there was another thing. You know how CERN is under the earth, and the magnetic field is like 6.5 Tesla or something like that. It's enormous, and you can imagine the disturbance that it caused. You know how it says there was a great earthquake, and no earthquake like it had ever happened since the dawn of time. And I thought, you know what if CERN did something, and within the earth, because it's the pull that it has, its energy, it caused all of this to happen. And then you have these future maps and things like that of the world, Navy maps and stuff like this, that it caused the earthquakes too, and caused the Lemuria and Atlantis to rise up, and the New Madrid to split, and the West Coast to fall off. There's no telling, you all. There really isn't. There's just all kinds of things, and I used to be a gloom and doom person. I really did. I used to believe it because it was embedded in my mind. And then like the 2000, and then it didn't happen. And then I thought, oh, wow, you panicked for nothing, Gina, honey. You did. I was storing up water, jugs of water, but yeah, you might want to get some water. You need water. They don't have enough water in a lot of areas. There's a water shortage, you all. Yeah, you might want to store up some water if you can too, because how are you going to cook that food without water. If you get a bunch of dried beans and you ain't got no water and you ain't got no way to fix them dried beans, you're going to be up the creek. You are. Even with the rice, if you haven't got a way to cook the rice, no heat source and or water, how you going to do it? Um, really, how you going to do it? You know, I used a box. I had some spaghetti that I bought and maybe some macaroni, spaghetti and macaroni years and years ago, over 10 years ago at Myers or Meyer. And when they had it on sale, it was like a pound of each for 25 cents. So Gina, honey, I thought I'm gonna buy me a few cases of that. Um, I used my last box of that spaghetti from over 10 years ago. It was still good. And I used a box of the elbow macaroni to make some macaroni salad. This is over 10 years ago. It's still good. But yeah, you also, pasta lasts a long time. It really does. You got to have some water. You got to have a heat source. Yes, you are. So before you go out, if you got in the habit of wanting to go to fast food all the time for all your meals, or why won't you take, you can even just skip one time going out and buy some canned goods or something for yourself and your family. You need a can opener. You do. You might need some matches or something. And yeah, instead of going to fast food, even do that, you can just work in maybe, well, I'm going to skip today, get me a burger, and I'm going to go get some canned goods. You can do that, I promise you. It's not going to kill you. It's not. But what will kill you is starvation. That will kill you. You'll slowly starve to death, and so will your children if they don't got food. It's happened many times before throughout the history of humanity. Things like this happen. So I am going to be ending this video. So don't tell me that there is no food crisis, because there is a food crisis. Energy crisis, food crisis, flooding causes food crisis. Next year's food crisis will be different. See, they know it's going to be different because of the, let me see if I can type this in, you all, food chain reaction game. Food, let me see this, you all. Gina, honey, I can't really see it right. Food chain reaction game. Year, let me see the year. Let's see what it brings up. 2015. Okay, so it's a 2015. A food chain reaction grain, a global food security game was held on November 4th, November the 9th through 10th in Washington, D.C. In Washington, D.C., this was the plan back then, you all. They told you all about it. How a new game helped us understand the future of food. And they mean it. They mean it. It was a new game to them. A new game, you all. Yes, it was. That's right. They did it. They did. Type it in and do your research, and this is kind of what it looked like right there. Boom! And it was hosted, I think, by Cargill or something. So you can see it, and it was held during Obama's presidency. Food chain reaction game, and people from all over the world sit down and played a game of Monopoly. A Monopoly, you all. A Monopoly game with all different scenarios thrown in it. So it happened. Check that out. Go check it out, and you can see for yourself, based on the years, they have it broken down into years, and how everything by the time 2025, how it all accumulated, and it boiled down to, I think things kind of leveled out, you all. And yeah, so with that being said, I'm going to go. I am. And I'm not a gloom and doom. I'm not, but it sounds, there's too many things happening. Too much chatter going on out there. There is way too much chatter. Skip the fast food for 1 week, 1 day, or 2 days. Get you some canned goods and a can opener, and have some food on your hand, because you don't want to starve to death. You might starve anyway. I might also. Even though we got food, it may not be enough, but that's okay. We're going to keep going, you all. We're not going to panic. We're going to use some wisdom. We are wisdom, and we're going to keep strong on the inside. We're going to keep anchored right there, you all. That's what we're going to do. Yes, we are. So, hello, wherever you are in any part of the world. Hello. From my heart to yours, love you. Have a wonderful rest of your day, you all, and I hope to see you later. And I really do like at nighttime researching to see what's going on a particular subject. I think that's really cool. Yeah, it really is. It's like going on a journey, an internet journey of research. Love you. Have a wonderful rest of your afternoon and morning. Love you.